So this week for Technique Tuesday, we're just going to have a little bit of a talk. For us, we've had quite a number of new people starting with us in the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks. A lot of them are doing the challenge, and a lot of them are looking to push quite hard, especially after those first initial couple of weeks where they've just started. Most of the residual soreness has started to die down, and then after the first 2 to 3 weeks, they're looking to really up that training volume and try and get the best results they can in the shortest amount of time possible. One of the things that I wanted to address in regards to that is with some people, and most of the time, volume's not necessarily always the answer. And what I mean by that is sometimes trying to go straight from doing 3 sessions a week into doing 6 sessions a week, along with 2 walks and 2 runs and a whole heap of other stuff that you're potentially going to do outside of the gym, can be a recipe for disaster. And it's not really something that you should just jump straight into, going from 50% of what your maximum volume is into doing 100% over the space of a week. The reason I say this is the number one thing that we say to a lot of people is recovery is everything. So how are you feeling by the end of the week? If by the end of the week and come Sunday night before you're going back in for your first session the next week, you're still feeling like you've been hit by a bus, then you haven't recovered properly from the week before. So it's silly and counterproductive of you to then that next week then just go and jump straight into doing another 5 classes, because really all you're doing is you're just digging yourself a bigger hole that if you keep digging it, it's going to take a lot for you to have to try and crawl out of. So what we say to a lot of people, especially when they're training in this environment like we've got here, and it's almost this FOMO, this fear of missing out that people get after they've been here for a while, where they're like, I've got to be there all the damn time, and I've got to keep doing it, and I've got to keep training. And that's great, and it's great that you're motivated to do extra, but you just have to be careful with what you're putting your body through. So when it comes to training, you don't want to go over your maximal recoverable volume. Now, if you do go over that, there's going to be a lot of symptoms to tell you what. Could be trouble sleeping. It could be just as simple as not feeling like you're ever fully recovered, kind of always feeling like you're beat up. Now, when we're talking about this, we're really referring to people who are just training for general health and fitness, right? Performance is a completely different deal, but you still need to cover off these things. So a couple of steps that you need to take in order to make sure that you're not going over that volume. Firstly, if you're doing the training with us, start off with 3 times a week. Okay, somebody starts with us, generally we actually limit their membership for the first couple of weeks so they can only do 3 times a week. Once you get to the point where you're recovering well from those 3 times a week, then you can add in another session. So you're going to bump up to 4 times a week, and you're going to do that for a couple of weeks. You're not just going to go 4 times a week in week 3, and then 5 times a week in week 4, and then 6 times a week in week 5. What you're going to try and do is you're going to go 4 times a week, and you probably want to do that for about another 4 to 6 weeks. Now, if you get to the point where you're recovering well, then you can add in another session. 5 times a week for what we do here for somebody within their first 12 to 18 months of training would be the absolute maximum that we'd recommend. Okay, so after that 12 to 18 months, if you want to start to do a little bit more, you can. But while you're going through that process, if you are looking to potentially lose some weight, or you're looking to just do a little bit extra and potentially some stuff that's going to aid with recovery, you can do some mobility routines, you can do some stretching, you can even just go for a basic walk for an hour. So it doesn't have to be complex just to do more and just to keep you fit. You just need to get up and move. And it doesn't mean that you need to be in the gym beating yourself up all the time. So just be aware of what you can and can't do when it comes to the gym. The number one indicator is, how are you recovering? Are you recovering well enough so that by the end of the week you're good and you're ready to go? Or do you feel like you have to drag your ass back in the gym that next week? Now, bear in mind, I'm talking about weight room training for general health and fitness. I'm not talking about skill-specific training, where when it comes to skill-specific training or sport-specific training, sometimes you need to get lots of volume in that to try and get better at those particular things, okay? So 2 different stories. We can go through that in another video. If you've got any other questions, ask us, but the number one thing is more volume's not necessarily better. Gradually build up as you go and make sure you're recovering well.